In February 1996, Pokemon was released in Japan, with Pocket Monsters Red and Green. The games were mostly the same with a few slight differences. One game was red while the other was green, but more notably each game had its own exclusive Pokemon, and the only way to get that Pokemon in the other game was through trade. Neither game was the definitive version, and which one you got was really all about preference, until later that year when version Blue was released. Pokemon Blue was the true definitive version of Generation 1, with bug fixes and updated graphics. In 1998, Pokemon released outside of Japan, with Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue. These new versions were both based on the updated Japanese Blue version, so neither was really the definitive game anymore, and Green was nowhere to be found. But Red and Blue weren't the only Pokemon games to release in 1998. While the rest of the world was just getting their first taste of Pokemon, Japan was getting something new, Pokemon Yellow, which would come to the rest of the world the following year. Pokemon Yellow wasn't like Blue. It wasn't just a new version with less bugs and different graphics. Pokemon Yellow was a different game altogether. Instead of having the option to choose between Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur, you received a special Pikachu, which was full of personality, and you had the option to get all the starters down the line. The game had various other changes from Red and Blue, like the inclusion of Jessie and James from the Pokemon anime as well.
Prepare for trouble!
Make it double!
Pokemon Yellow was the third game in the original generation, and it started a trend among Pokemon generations. For a while, each generation would release with two games that were mostly the same, then, sometime later, a third game would come. And that third game would have some interesting changes that tweaked the feel of the generation and paved the way for future games. Now, a lot of these changes weren't groundbreaking, and for many people, they didn't seem to justify buying a game so similar to the one that you might already own. But for me, these third games were my favorite games in the series. Not only were new mechanical features added to these third games, like Pokemon being in color for the first time in Pokemon Yellow, or being able to choose to play as a girl for the first time in Pokemon Crystal, there were also changes to the stories. The best example of this is in Generation 3's Pokemon Emerald. Original Generation 3 releases, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, you play through two different sides of a story, with one following Team Magma, a group of criminals trying to dry up the ocean using the heat of the legendary Pokemon Groudon, and the other following Team Aqua as they try to flood all the land using the legendary Pokemon Kyogre. Toward the end of the main story, in Ruby and Sapphire, the criminal organization will successfully awaken the legendary Pokemon, throwing the weather into chaos and putting the world in danger. It's up to you, the protagonist, to calm the legendary Pokemon down and save the day. But in Emerald, it goes a little bit differently. In Pokemon Emerald, both Team Magma and Team Aqua are in a huge turf war. One team wants the whole world to be land, while the other wants the whole world to be ocean. In an effort to achieve their goal, both teams awaken the legendary Pokemon, who battle to control the weather. The world is in chaos, but instead of the protagonist calming the Pokemon directly, a third legendary, Rayquaza, comes down from the skies to settle the differences. While the story is mostly the same for all the games in Generation 3, in Emerald, you get a more complete story with more context, and in my opinion, it really brought everything together. A lot of people seem to think of the third games as kind of a lazy cash grab or a half-baked sequel to the original pair. I can agree that for a lot of people, if you've already played one game in a generation, buying another might not be worth it. And maybe that's why the Pokemon Company hasn't made as many third games for the most recent generations. But for me, the third games add an amount of charm that's usually worth it, like seeing Pokemon actually move in Pokemon Crystal, or experiencing the region of Sinnoh covered in snow in Pokemon Platinum. So if you plan on picking up an old Pokemon game anytime soon, maybe give one of those third games a try.